Why are there not more people talking about the deep-rooted history of racism in America? Racism is a harmful belief that has deeply affected societies for centuries. It says that one race is better than another, creating divisions and fostering hatred. It judges people by their skin color, not their character, leading to discrimination and inequality. Racism has a long and painful history in the United States, affecting countless lives. It started with the arrival of Europeans who displaced indigenous people and enslaved Africans, and it continues to this day in various forms. This essay will explore the history of racism in America, examining key events and figures. We will look at its origins, its impact on different communities, and the ongoing fight for racial justice and equality. It is important to understand this history to recognize the patterns and work towards change. Please like and subscribe to support our channel. Only then can we create a more just and equitable future for all, where everyone is treated with respect and dignity, regardless of their race. Racism began in America with the arrival of European colonists. When they first set foot on American soil, they brought with them not just their culture and technology, but also their prejudices and sense of superiority. They believed they were superior to Native Americans and Africans. This belief was rooted in their own cultural and racial biases, which they used to justify their actions and policies. Europeans saw Native Americans as obstacles to their expansion. They viewed the land as theirs for the taking, disregarding the existing societies and cultures that had thrived there for centuries. They forced Native Americans off their land and into reservations. This displacement was often violent and devastating, leading to loss of life, culture, and autonomy for many Native American tribes. Africans were brought to America as slaves. They were captured, sold, and transported across the Atlantic in brutal conditions, stripped of their freedom and humanity. They were treated as property, not human beings. Forced to work on plantations, they endured harsh conditions, physical abuse, and complete lack of rights. Laws were created to enforce racial hierarchy. These laws institutionalized racism, ensuring that people of color remained subjugated and oppressed. These laws gave white Europeans power and privilege over people of color. They established a social order that placed white people at the top and marginalized others. This marked the beginning of centuries of racial injustice in America. The legacy of these early actions and laws can still be felt today, as the struggle for equality and justice continues. Slavery became central to the American economy. Millions of Africans were enslaved and forced to work on plantations. They endured brutal treatment and had no rights. The abolitionist movement emerged to fight against slavery. Abolitionists believed that slavery was morally wrong and should be abolished. In 1861, the Civil War broke out. The war was fought between the North and the South over the issue of slavery. The North's victory in 1865 ended slavery in America. Section 4. Jim Crow Laws, Segregation and Oppression. After the Civil War, Jim Crow laws were enacted in the South. These laws enforced segregation and discrimination against Black Americans. Black people were denied equal access to education, housing, and jobs. They were also subjected to violence and intimidation. These laws created a system of racial apartheid in America. Black people were treated as second-class citizens and denied their basic human rights. Section 5. The Civil Rights Movement, Fighting for Equality. This pivotal era in American history marked a turning point in the struggle for civil rights and social justice. The civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s challenged racial segregation and discrimination. It was a time when African Americans and their allies stood up against the systemic injustices that had plagued the nation for centuries. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. advocated for nonviolent resistance. His powerful speeches and unwavering commitment to justice inspired millions to join the cause. They organized boycotts, marches, and sit-ins to demand equal rights. These acts of civil disobedience were crucial in drawing national attention to the plight of African Americans. The movement led to significant legal victories. These victories were not just symbolic, they brought about real change in the lives of countless individuals. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. These landmark pieces of legislation were instrumental in dismantling institutional racism and ensuring greater equality for all Americans. Section 6. Racism, Today, a Continued Struggle. While progress has been made, racism persists in America today. It exists in subtle and overt forms. Systemic racism is embedded in institutions and policies. This leads to disparities in education, healthcare, criminal justice, and other areas. We must continue to fight for racial justice and equality. This requires acknowledging and addressing systemic racism in all its forms.